So if we can have our speakers up front again, and that way you'll be able to address your questions. Anybody want to start? All right, you're the back.
Okay, trying to mix packaging. Tetris containers, like for juices. They got the plastic ring on top, the plastic cap, and then you've got the mixed cardboard / plastic line thing. Are you supposed to just throw that in and that is all recyclable as is?
Well, again, it depends on the municipality you're from, but in Drummond North Elmsley, gable tops and those Tetra Paks are acceptable in the container stream. And the yellow box.
As part of that same message, then, plastic windows in business envelopes?
Not a problem. You do not have to pull them out.
Okay, good.
No.
And what about the plastic that's on Kleenex boxes?
If you want to do the best possible job, pull that off and put it in the garbage, but my understanding is it will not contaminate the fiber load if you leave that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the windows go on the envelope, is that when it's an envelope that's made of cellulose, or will it matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
So.
I mean, I do remember decades ago when I was younger, you were supposed to take that window out. Now, they absolutely say it's not necessary, it doesn't matter. It's all shredded and made back into pulp. And my guess is it's just a small enough percentage of the stream that it doesn't cause a problem.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Barb, the back?
Similar question. You were talking about the really small metal bits. What about the really small plastic bits, like the mini yogurt containers, single applesauce? Is that too small? Like, how small is too small?
Stack them. Yeah, I really advocate stacking. So put them inside the bigger things, you know, and maybe even put a lid on the top. I don't know. Is that crazy?
But like, say you had a plastic lid off a water bottle.
Right.
Can you throw that in, or is that going to cause more trouble to?
No, I think put it in. You know, if it's an accepted material in your municipality, put it in. I really advocate if the container and the lid are made of the same, and that's usually the case with plastic. I mean, when you think about it, right?
Yeah. But something like the Tetra Paks, that lid is a different substance than the.
Well,
Tetra
someone
Pak.
just asked me that question.
Yeah.
You know, what I do is I rinse my Tetra Pak, I smash it underfoot on the floor, and then I screw that lid back on.
But
It's
are they
plastic
having
and
to
plastic.
separate that somewhere when they go to recycle?
No, they're going to be shredding it. Really, everything gets shredded, and it's like shredded down into little tiny pieces or fibers, and then they're melting it down and making something out of it again. Yeah. So, you know, a good example is a metal lid on a wine bottle. So the wine bottle is going to go back to the beer store for your 10 cents, right? Maybe it's even 20 cents. And that little metal lid is going to go in your container recycling in your tin can, right, that you're going to crimp close.
Won't they take those lids too if you put them in a separate container? No?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought
At,
they did.
at the
Well, they
beer
take
store,
caps,
you mean?
right?
Pardon?
They'll take beer caps.
At the
Beer store?
Are you serious?
I think they say they take everything that they sell.
Okay.
So everything you buy there can go back.
Go figure, yeah.
The case, beer case and everything.
I guess the point I wanted to make about those deposit containers and the LCBO is that is a whole separate recycling system, and that is a system where, you know, the producer is paying for that. Well, I mean, we're paying for it because we pay the deposit, but way back when Ontario designed its recycling system, the LCBO opted to do their own. So I think we should make them work that system that they made.
Because we don't get paid for it.
We don't. So, you know, that's
Because they have a system.
exactly.
They have a place for you to take your LCBO containers.
So we talk about that extended producer responsibility when the companies that are making the packaging and putting it on the market are going to be responsible for paying the cost of recycling. Where was I going with that?
The LCBO has already kind of started it.
Right.
Yeah, they've already got a foothold in doing that.
Yeah, yeah. So we get roughly 50% back, but it's this whole big system where we have to, you know, give them all our data, and then they have to check it all. But the thing is, there's only certain obligated materials that those stewards are willing to pay for, right? So everything else gets cut off. You know, there's all these formulas by population base that says, well, Drummond North Elmsley has this many people, therefore the formula says this much is purchased at the LCBO, and so that's taken off the top of your data call, and you don't get paid for that. So you're paying for that twice. If you buy that bottle of wine and then throw it in your municipal recycling, you've given your deposit to the LCBO, and you are not getting a subsidy for that bottle in your municipal program because it's not part of the program. So take it back.
In the blue?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion and something that I've really been thinking about lately, and that's kind of really got me a little bit fired up, is about incentive programs. And so for me, plastic bags are one of my biggest beefs. And you can go into a grocery store in Perth, and 90% of the people are still using plastic bags, right? And so I was having this interesting discussion with somebody, and they said, well, the thing is that if you charge 5 cents for a plastic bag, people aren't going to blink an eye at 5 cents. But if you tell them that you'll take 5 cents off their bill, if they bring, X number of bags or whatever, that, I hate to say it, but human psychology says they're more likely to actually take action if you give them a discount than if it costs them, 5 cents, because they're going to go, okay, my order was $160, 5 cents for a plastic bag, who cares, right? So it kind of comes down to incentive systems, and that, maybe, the systems that we have in place just aren't working, and there's a reason, because of human psychology. And this kind of takes me to a quick second point is, when I was a kid growing up in the 70s, you couldn't buy Coke in a plastic bottle. It didn't exist. It was all glass, right? And there was a deposit on that
Glass
bottle.
and cans, yeah. That's
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, because I think it's Sweden now, has a program, I think it's rolling out through Europe, where you can take your plastic Coke bottle, water bottle, whatever, stick it into a machine, recycle machine, you'll get money back, or it puts money towards your train ticket.
They do that in
So
the
there's all
United
kinds of
States. They do that in some U.S. states.
Wow.
Where you can take, I know in Maine, you can stick
Yeah.
the thing in the machine and you get your money out the bottom.
Yeah, I used to do that when I lived in Maine.
There you go.
But where are those systems, and why are we not using them, I guess?
Because it costs them a lot of money to put that machine together to reflect that. And then you've got people that have to go now empty that.
Right.
So it's the incentive, the financial incentive is not there, other than if they have an environmental consciousness to be able to put that up there.
But I guess my point is, because I'm really big on community level action, somebody's doing it and it's working there. So there's got to be a reason why it works there. So why can't it work here? You know what I mean? I know there's capital cost to get something going. But again, if we make garbage lucrative, it's not garbage, it's not waste.
And that's something that you can, and this goes to anything. This is something that you, as a individual, should be directly speaking with your municipal representatives and saying, this is something that's important to me, and if you have a large enough group or a large enough amount of people who are doing this and they understand that the need is there, and this is something that's worth it to my residents, and especially if you're doing this right around voting time, then it's more likely to come to the table. So if they know the environmental consciousness is there within their constituency, then there's a far greater opportunity or chance that it might actually come to pass. So if like the lobbying, like when we say all the time, well, it's the lobbyists that are causing all these problems with the petrochemical industry and yada yada, you're a lobbyist too. And we spoke about it earlier, it's your voice counts, your dollars count. So where you decide to put them or where you decide to direct them is very important. Very important. In the back there.
What's the Smith Falls compost site? I don't remember you mentioning that. I wonder if you are doing some composting there.
Sure. So what it is, the compost site is where you as a resident, if you're from Smith Falls or Drummond North Elmsley, you are able to take your leaf and yard waste. We don't have a certification, or a C of A they call it, for organic. So we just deal with your garden
So
waste.
it's yard waste.
Yard waste.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, bring it.
Just 2 points. First of all, there's other sites other than LCBOs that take beer cans and wine bottles or liquor bottles back, which makes it easier. I don't know if there's an incentive for them to do that, but in Crosby, in Rita Lakes, the hardware store.
There's a depot,
There's
right.
a depot.
In
Yeah.
Lanark Village, there's
Yeah.
a depot as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
And
a small business that does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier than piling all of those things up.
Mhm.
The other thing is, Metro in Perth accepts plastic bags as waste.
Yes. For recycling.
For recycling.
Yes.
And I've asked them what they do with it, and I'm not sure I'm getting the correct
What did
answer.
they say?
What are they doing with it? Well, they said, oh, we have somebody who comes and picks it up. It
Right.
comes and picks it up, does what?
Right. So a MRF has to be set up for film plastic. It's not that no one could ever recycle film plastic. They have to have the right technology for it. So this is why I say what a municipality can collect at the curb depends on the MRF, where it's going. And different facilities can handle different things depending on how they've set up their line, what technology they have in place. So there are certainly MRFs that recycle film plastic, and I'm really hoping that Metro is linked to one. You know, that's something they do, I think, at all their stores, so I'm assuming that on a corporate scale.
Yeah, Food Basics has a large tote container that you can actually, if you want to get a bag, you can actually take one of those bags out and use them. Yep.
In the plaid. Well, you're both in plaid.
I want to do something about the 30% of the garbage. So if I get a composter from Smith Falls, I just put all my vegetable waste, garden cutting, and so on to it. And I don't want to deal with any of the proper ratio. Would I still be happy? In other words, I get a composter, I dump the green stuff there.
Yeah, the food, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No meat, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, with the composter that we deliver, we provide a guide, and it shows you actually to help create the compost, and how you can utilize it around your space, how it shrinks. It's amazing.
Okay, the one in the front with the
Tony,
flash.
what's your take on that? I'm not.
Oh,
Yeah, well, at the town of Perth, we don't offer backyard composters. Typically, people will do that on their own. There are tons, but we encourage everyone to bring it to the land. Well, actually, to put it on the curb for a pickup. We want the product. We want it to come to our landfill, and we want to take care of it.
But I think Peter's question is about the mixture, right? How scientific do we have to get? And my understanding with backyard composting, and I think that the theory holds on a bigger scale, that you talk green and brown materials. So if we consider the food waste, the green, you need to mix it with brown. Brown material could be grass clippings, dead leaves, manure if you have a neighbor that has livestock. And I used to live in BC where we had grizzly bears. Even up in Lanark Highlands, people say, oh, I can't recycle because, wildlife will come. I recycled for 20 years where we had grizzly bears, and the prevailing wisdom was 3-to-1, brown to green. So a lot of people said, put your bucket of food scraps and put the same amount of leaves, 3 times the amount of brown to green. And you know what, I don't stir it, I don't mix it, I don't do anything. I dump it in there, and when it fills up, I take it off, and if it's not done on the top, I put it back in, but underneath you've got this beautiful, rich compost that has to be screened a little bit, because there's always going to be some twigs and some corn cobs and things like that that don't completely break down. But it's that brown to green ratio. There's something about the chemistry of it that it does require. Is it the nitrogen that comes from the other?
So all the food material is considered nitrogenous material.
Okay.
And then what you're doing is you're adding carbonaceous material, which is wood. So brown is correct. The best thing to add would be wood chips. To get your mixture bright.
Right.
Yeah, it wood chips, it'll dry up some of that liquid.
Right.
And we have them out at the compost site.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
We compost at home just in like a big pallet,
Yeah.
pallet thing that we have in our backyard. And to help a little bit with the smell that everybody's worried about having in their compost bucket that they have under their sink at home, and to take care of some of the wet that you get inevitably as well, is we just take like newspaper and fold it into a little bag, and it makes a liner for my compost container. So then when we go to take it outside, you're not having like, you know how you get that congealed bit at the bottom all the time? It doesn't happen. My compost container is pretty clean. I'll still rinse it out every once in a while, but I mean, I have that paper bin liner in there, and it kind of takes care of that. And on top of it, I'm automatically adding some carbon material to it at the same time.
So the soggy newspaper just goes into the
soggy
compost?
newspaper just goes in the compost.
I'm gonna try that at home.
Well, and the paper that we have in town, our publications are done with like soy ink, so they're not toxic either, so. I've called on you twice now, what do you got for me?
Well, I thought it was Peter you were talking about. That Clean Jars project that's going to be coming out of the high school, just a suggestion, how about contacting the health food stores and maybe stores like Foodsmiths and Perth, and see whether they consider putting a tray there with these clean jars that would sterilize, put in there for people to use, just pick up and use, rather than putting new containers in that the storehouse buy.
I don't know if Foodsmiths does this or not, but at Modern Times we have a basket that's out for container donation. So if you have a container that is in good condition, and a lot of those margarine tubs and yogurt containers and stuff like that that can't always go in your recycling depending on where you are, we'll happily take them. We do have to put them through a sanitizing process because we do deal with the public, but if you bring it to us clean, we'll sanitize it, we put the tear weight on the bottom, and we put it out for people to use. So it's a good faith system that we're using, because you're coming in and voluntarily using them, and we as a business have to sanitize them, so we go through proper public health safety
That's why
sanitizing.
the school project would be great, because they can be sanitized at that point, and Foodsmith sells tons of stuff in bulk.
Yeah.
Including, laundry detergents, everything like that as well.
Yeah.
So these containers would be perfect for that.
Yeah, and that's why we have our jar bank program, because people can come in, and we do have people bring in like juice bottles and, olive oil bottles and, the yogurt containers and the pasta sauce bottles and all kinds of stuff like that. And we get them ready and put them out, and we have like, laundry detergent and liquid soaps and shampoo and conditioner and all different kinds of stuff like that on top of our foodstuffs. And so just depending on what it is you need, you grab the appropriate container and away you go. People have always been allowed to bring their own from home, and then we just weigh it to make sure we're just charging you for what you're putting in it. But if you walk in and you have forgotten to bring something, or if you realize that your list has more items than containers, then we've got an option for you as well. And there's a few other stores that are starting to adopt this type of program as well, which is great. I can't claim originality for this. I got the idea from a store in London, England called Hetu, and they don't have any containers, or not containers, they don't have any baggies or anything for you in there. If you don't come in with your container, you either use something from the jar bank, or you have to walk out empty-handed. They are completely zero waste. We do have people that come up to the cash with like foil wrapped candies, and they're like, "This is all I want," and they just set it on the scale, and I'm like, "Okay."
I'm seeing myself like with my almonds.
There's a gentleman that comes in and gets these little, they're called traveler's ginger. They're for upset stomach, and they're all pre-wrapped because they're meant for travel.
Right.
But he'll go over and grab a handful of them and then set them on the scale and then walk out with them in his pocket.
Yeah.
And that works for him. Yes.
So you might all be aware, but I wasn't until recently, you can buy kitty litter in reusable containers from Petco, and I don't know what's available here in Canada, but I've recently discovered that, so that's, it involves a lot of plastic recycling if you don't do that.
Some of them are doing it in pressed recycled paper
But it's
containers.
even better not to have. even recycling has to cost.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
All
So
that
if you
trucking.
can reuse the container, that would be.
Exactly. Yes.
I just wanted to ask if anybody knows, I pass my, clothing that still has wear in it on to, donate it to places that, sell it again. But what about the clothing that, cannot be worn again? Do the place that you donate them to, like the
Salvation Army.
or whatever, do they have a stream that it goes
There
to
is a
rag?
bag, the source in town takes what they don't sell, they sell for rags.
Rag dealers.
Yeah, and also, laws will take for their pet. So for the rescue
Like
animals.
clothing, or just like pillows and blankets and bedding
Any
and towels?
fabric,
Any
any fabric at all. If it's like a towel or like, like a jersey sort of, sweatshirt kind of material, they'll use it in the kennels for them to sleep on. If it's something that ripped and it's really small or whatever, then they'll use it for other things, like when they're, if a dog comes in and it's in really bad shape and they have to wash it down, they might use it to dry it off, or to bandage, or different things like that. So they will find a use for it. Salvation Army will also take ripped, unusable clothing. If you put on the box fabric scraps, I have had to I don't know what my husband does in a day. He constantly rips his pants just here, I don't know, and they're perfectly good pants otherwise. But there were huge holes, and I can use a sewing machine, but sometimes it's beyond my capabilities. I have taken in boxes of his ripped jeans, and it just has fabric scraps on it. They sell it with some of their crafting items. And people will come in and get fabric scraps to just use for different projects. That is, if my kids haven't gotten into that box and started making dolls' clothes out of it. But they will take stuff like that as well, as long as you're not giving it to them and it's not obvious that it's fabric scraps.
Right.
If you're giving it to them and they think that it's clothes, depending on the person or the volunteer who's sorting that day, they might think, well, somebody just gave us a piece of junk, and they throw it. If it's in a box that's marked fabric scraps, then they'll keep it with their crafting stuff.
I just wanted to say too, I don't know if you know about this, but there is a fellow in Canada somewhere that has invented a filter for your washing machine, because so many of our clothes now have plastics in them, and that is all small bits that comes off.
Microplastic.
So that there's this filter that you can just add to your sewing machine water drainage line, and it will collect that.
The other thing we're learning is you don't have to wash your clothes every time you wear it necessarily, and that, that's one of the lowering your carbon footprint tips I'm seeing lately is check it before you put it in the laundry basket. If it's not dirty, don't wash it. And that's especially true for fleece clothing and things where those microplastics are coming off,
Things that tend to use a lot of water as well, like jeans.
Exactly.
But did you know that you can refresh your jeans by folding them up and putting them in the freezer overnight? Or if you have weather like we're having right now, you can put it on the clothesline, and the cold air will actually refresh. Yeah. So we have time for 3 more. Yes?
I just actually have a suggestion. For those of you who are on Pinterest, if you actually search upcycled items or upcycled glass bottles or whatever you have, it will come up with hundreds of really cool and neat ideas that you can make as gifts or like garden little trinkets, or one that comes to mind is like a cheese grater turned into an earring tree. And it's just really fun stuff like that. And I know Christmas is now come and gone, but it's a lot of really cool things. So Pinterest, for anyone who's on Pinterest already.
Can you share that in the Facebook page?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be great. Anybody else? Got time for 2 more? Yeah.
Just curious about glass bottle recycling. So there's some supplements and things that I buy, and it's brown glass, plastic lids, that's fine, separate those. But the label that's on it is that really irritating, really thin plastic thing. And so you have to wrestle it off. When you finally wrestle it off, there's so much sticky goop left on the glass, and you can't get it off if you put it in the dishwasher. 50 years of water later, it's still on there. Does that affect the recyclability of that glass?
I don't think it
I
is.
don't think so.
You know, and all the stuff I've been learning about in the last 10 years, I have never heard someone talk about the need to remove labels from glass containers or even from cans. I mean, when I was a kid, we peeled the plastic off, or the paper. Yeah. You don't need to do that anymore. I don't know why, but no, you know, presumably if you're melting down metal, that paper goes up.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the recyclability. The only thing is, if there's a way to recover that paper,
right.
That's nice.
What I do.
That's nice.
Yeah,
When it's
with
that,
a plastic one.
when it's the
yeah.
plastic film, so I can attest to this because we wash and sanitize all those containers and bottles and all the stuff that comes in. So we've kind of learned to identify, oh, that's one of those labels.
Yeah.
We're gonna be here forever. So
Right.
there's some that we kind of know by sight now that are just gonna be a pain in the butt, and some that are a little bit easier to deal with. But if you know you're gonna be putting it in your recycling bin, and it's one of those plastic film ones, the heat that it has to go through to get like melted down to be turned into glass again, to usable like glass pellets, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not gonna.
Good to know.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, one more. Who wants to take it up? Anybody? All right, in the black shirt, what do you got?
I've been composting a long time. I'm from Montreal, and before they brought in the program, I was composting. One thing that I did do was I would puree my vegetable mass and throw it in the compost, and it decomposes like 5 times as fast.
Great idea.
So I had one old blender just for my compost.
What a great idea.
Great.
Yeah.
Use your own grader for that.
Awesome.
So,
I have to use that
go
on
onto
my
our
earrings.
Facebook page and note that for us.
Yes, we
This is what I
would
do.
love it if
Yeah.
like any of this information gets like shared on our Facebook page. That would be fantastic. We go on there regularly to address questions. If you come in and you're having like obstacles or challenges with your journey, we're more than happy to help you, and the community is there to help you as well. We've only had it going for a little while now, but it's slowly growing. So just look up Journey to Sustainability on Facebook, and you'll find us there. And we're more than happy to have some more members from the Atlantic community. Great. Thank you.
Has anyone found a cure yet for the idiot that throws his McDonald's bags out on the highway and Tim Hortons cups?
I believe there's a bounty hunter somewhere.
It's called
for that
Adopt a
job.
Road.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's called Adopt
There's
a
Adopt a
Road.
Road program.
Adopt a
And
road.
Adopt a Road, and that means we're
So we
gonna walk along
babysit
the
them
road
then.
and pick that
Yes,
guy's
we
garbage
So we
up.
babysit them.
Yeah.
Or
You
if
know,
you actually see them do it, take down their license plate.
My sister is about to turn 61. When she was about 8 years old, she won a poster making contest in school for an anti-littering campaign.